A brand new Nissan, the all-new Matt Blatt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township, or visit us online, mattblattnissan.com.
With all the sports we have, every time of the year is the best time of the year.
And the crowd just buzzing with excitement.
On 97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square media station. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Blatt Kia Studios.
Oh, what a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
Welcome into a Tuesday edition of Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Josh Hennig hanging out with you as we are getting you ready for Sixers Celtics tonight. You can hear the action right here on 97.3 ESPN. Coverage begins at 8 p.m. tonight. Tom McGinnis on the call. Of course, this is one of those final games of the Sixers season. We will get into what this game means and doesn't mean for the Sixers coming up this hour. Plus, the Phillies losing streak continues. What does that mean? We'll get into that as well coming up here this hour. The Power Hour, you and me hanging out on a Tuesday night. All that and more to get to. You can join the conversation. 609-403-0973 is the text board. Also, you can DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. And it's a good thing it was a good weather day today because it was a good opportunity for a lot of people to be able to be like, look, it's not all bad. It's not all negative. It's still a nice day outside. I'm thankful to be alive and well today. There are things to be grateful, even though the Phillies have now lost 4 straight games. And we will get to the Sixers in a bit, but I want to start with the Phillies here because I told you guys yesterday, I think that losing to start the season is not a negative thing as much as some people want to make it out to be. Look, we are documenting here on 97.3 ESPN that you go back through Phillies history and you realize that last year's Phillies team had a losing record before Girardi was fired. Then they went on a run. The 2008 Phillies, they started their year 8-10. They lost the first 2 games of their season. And the 2009 Phillies wasn't exactly better. The 2009 Phillies also lost 2 games to start the year and lost 3 of their first 4 games. Winning to start a year has little to no consequence on your team's ability to win over the course of a season. And one could argue that, especially in recent years, losing to start a season allows you time to recalibrate, hit the reset button, and try to figure out how to fix the problem before it gets worse. You know, the 2019 Phillies started that season 4-0. And on top of that, they didn't just start 4-0. They started 7-2. You would have thought at this time in April in 2019, that team should go to the playoffs. But that team also went 11-16 in the month of June. They finished the month of April 13-13. They were outscored by almost 30 runs in the month of June. Yeah, the 2019 Phillies. You go back to the 2009 Phillies, a team that did not win the World Series. And you realize that season wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. Because also in June, for the 2009 Phillies team, they went 11-5. They struggled at times, but struggling early in the year allows you to find your way. It allows you the time to figure it out. Now, I'm not promising anybody that the Philadelphia Phillies are going to the World Series again this year. But if you think for 1 minute that the Philadelphia Phillies being 0-4 is a sign that this team stinks, then I think that your assessment of sports is obviously either completely off base or maybe you're just somebody who likes to be contrary. Listen, tonight, the Phillies, in theory, have a chance to win their first game of the season. Not because of any particular anything, except for the fact that they're playing a game. Because at this point, you can't say anything about this team that genuinely makes you think that you know exactly what is or is not going to happen anymore. And with the lineup tonight, I told Mike Gill earlier, I feel like this is like the Baker Mayfield meme, I woke up feeling dangerous, or the other meme which is I too like to live dangerously from Austin Powers. Like, they literally have 4 lefties in a row at the bottom of the lineup. It's like they're literally saying, we don't care. We're done overthinking it. Because 1 through 5 makes sense. Turner, Schwarber, Bohm, Hall, Castellanos. Right, left, right, left, right. Makes sense. JT Realmuto is not playing tonight. I'm personally a little surprised, but I guess they feel like with a day game coming up tomorrow, they want to give Realmuto an opportunity to rest, I guess, because it's weird. The way the schedule plays out, for those who don't know. So they play tonight in the Bronx. Tomorrow they play the Yankees one more time at 1:05. Then the home opener is 3:05. Then they play 4:05 the next day, and then 1:05 the day after that. So I guess for the Phillies, they look at it as tonight is the one shot that they can definitely get Realmuto a scheduled day off until next Wednesday. In theory. Again, I'm saying in theory. I personally would try to find a way to put his bat in the lineup, but I digress. I don't manage a Major League Baseball team. I'm just a guy who talks about it on the radio, 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. But after those 5, Turner, Schwarber, Bohm, Hall, Castellanos, you have Stott, Cave, Marsh, Stubbs. Bryson Stott, left-handed batter. Jake Cave, left-handed batter. Brandon Marsh, left-handed batter. Stubbs, catching for Realmuto, left-handed batter. Now, the difference with all those names is that Stubbs has a 300 batting average against left-handed pitching in his Major League Baseball career, according to Baseball Reference. So, Stubbs being in there is not a big deal at all. It's more the issue of Stott, Cave, and Marsh back to back to back. Because if the Yankees do decide to go to their bullpen and do decide they are going to bring in some left-handed pitching and do what the Rangers did, then they can get problematic. Because when you look at the Phillies right now, they don't have the greatest options to deal with having to bring anybody in. Because look who's in the lineup tonight. Stott plays second base. Now, the obvious replacement there is Sosa or Josh Harrison. All right, that makes sense. But then you have Cave. Well, really, there's only 2 guys who can play left field who are on the bench, and that would be Harrison, and Pache. And Pache's bat is practically useless. Oh, and by the way, Marsh is 8. So unless you're going to say if the Yankees go to a left-handed pitcher coming out of their bullpen, unless you're going to say you're going to sub all of them out, okay? If the Yankees say, hey, we're going to bring in Peralta here, right here. If your answer is, all right, everyone who's left-handed, you're coming out of the game. I guess in that scenario, you got to do what you got to do. Now, the good thing is the Rangers don't have, the Yankees don't have, I should say, the Rangers bullpen of heavy left-handers available to them. And for those who don't know, one of the Yankees' top bullpen pitchers, Tommy Kahnle, he's not available at all. So it's not like going to the Yankees bullpen is the end of the world. You can get to them a little bit. I just think it's an interesting decision by the Phillies tonight. And we'll see how many innings Strom can go. I mean, this dude was brought here to be a bullpen pitcher, and now he's going out there as a starter. And does he go 3 innings? I have no idea. So I understand optically this is very frustrating, but I think that overall it's not time to panic. It's an opportunity to let the season play out, reassess, and figure things out. Over on the text board at 609-403-0973. That is the text board. You also can DM the show here through the 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. Jeff in Ocean City chimes in and says, Josh, which game do you have more interest in tonight and gets the big screen, Sixers or Phillies? It's from Jeff in Ocean City. This is a great opportunity for me to talk about the Sixers because I'm way more interested in what the Sixers do tonight than the Phillies. Because one, the Sixers are still not 100% locked into who they're going to play in the first round. We assume they're playing the Nets if all things play out as we anticipate they will. But there's no guarantee that that's going to happen. And I know there's a lot of Sixer fans, and I was trying to explain this earlier on the Sports Bash with Mike Gill, and there's a lot of people out there. They look at this game tonight against Boston, and they say, you got to win this game for psychological reasons. I don't know if that's true or not, honestly. Look, I think that there are two different types of pro athletes. There are the pro athletes who look at the postseason as, hey, the regular season is over. We can change the narrative now that we're in the postseason. There are athletes like that. There are other athletes who love the opportunity to look at a team and say, we have beaten you. Now, it should be noted that Robert Williams is out for this game. And the last time I checked, Jaylen Brown was questionable. So there's no guarantee that we're even going to get the Celtics at their best tonight. Now, maybe that's what you need to beat them. I don't know. If you lose to a Celtics team that doesn't have Jaylen Brown and Robert Williams out there, do you look at it differently? Do you feel differently about it? I don't know. For me at least, I look at it as an opportunity for the Sixers to keep working on their rotations and get locked in for the playoffs. Now, for those who are wondering, Jaylen Brown has a lower back issue, and that's why he's questionable. And there's a possibility, if you believe certain people who cover the league, that Jaylen Brown is basically never going to be 100% until next year. So you could argue that Brown, whether he plays tonight or not, you are never going to see the best version of him until next season, but still an 85 to 95% Jaylen Brown is still better than at least half the NBA. So I'm not buying into that theory personally, but I do think that for me, the The priority game tonight is the Sixers. I want to see what they do against the Celtics. I want to see what they do. I don't care what any athlete says. I don't care how much they say we're in the zone during the game. You know the crowd is there. You know that they're to see you and not the other team. You know that your home fans want to see you win. And whether they admit it or not, there has to be a little bit of pressure on them to say, we got 2 home games left the entire rest of the season. We need to go out there and show our fans that we care. And like Jeff in Ocean City texted in, you can't get blown out tonight like you did in the Milwaukee game. Now, you could argue, like I was saying yesterday, the Mike Vorkanoff of The Athletic, I was saying that one could argue that the Milwaukee game was more about Milwaukee wanting to make a statement and tie up the season series 2-2 than it was about the Sixers having a bad game per se. I want to know what the Sixers look like tonight, how they come out, what kind of energy they have, because whether it's true or not, whether it exists in reality or not, perception becomes reality. And if the Sixers lose this game badly tonight, tomorrow, and for the next 2 weeks until their first playoff game, there is going to be a segment of fans out there, and there's going to be a segment of people in the sports media pandering to those fans who are all going to come out and say, this team doesn't have the it factor, they can't win at home against their rival, etc., etc. So I think that's why I'm very interested to see how this game plays out, because I want to see with my own 2 eyes exactly what happens tonight. We'll get to more of your messages on the other side. I see Dan from EHT chimes in. I see his message and more. We'll get to you guys coming up on the other side here on Game Night. Josh Henning hanging out with you. The Power Hour here on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. It's free thanks to First Bank of Sea Isle.
You haven't downloaded the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app? Well, go get it now to follow all the Philly sports teams at 97.3ESPN.com. Powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
Oh, yeah, it's on at Matt Blatt Nissan.
It's buyback March at Matt Blatt Nissan. So bring any trade because AJ the Trade Man wants to buy your vehicle today. AJ pays $500 more than CarMax. So you get more dough for your ride and then drive home in any new Nissan, Altima, Rogue, or Pathfinder with 0 down, 0 payments for 90 days, and 0 interest. Or take $5,000 off MSRP on every new Nissan Titan. And only Matt Blatt Nissan has a 4-day love it or leave it return policy.
Oh, yeah, it's on at Matt Blatt Nissan.
Have a job clearing $350 per week? We want to approve you today. And AJ wants your trade, but only at MattBlattNissan.com. Rate qualifications exist with approved credit. $27.78 per thousand financed on in-stock 2023 Rogues, Pathfinder, Altima. Not all will qualify. Go to MattBlattNissan.com for complete details or call 844-917-4758. Price includes all costs to be paid by consumer, except for licensing, registration, and taxes. $589. Sale price $31,774. Expires 3/31/23. It's on at Matt Blatt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike. Egg Harbor Township.
You like to move it.
At the United States Postal Service, we're reinventing our network to help keep your business moving. With new shipping options to deliver better value, greater flexibility to conveniently reach your customers, more confident shipping with new informed delivery features, and new electric vehicles for a cleaner, brighter future. Fast, reliable, perfectly orchestrated. The United States Postal Service, delivering for America. Learn more at USPS.com/moving forward.
Go for the pulls and the pools. Go for the hot streak and the hot tubs. Go for a relaxing massage and for wild nights with your entourage. Go to play all day and to dance all night. Go for the rooms with the ocean views that go on forever. Go for paradise with a pair of dice. Go for the win. Go to Ocean Casino Resort. Book your trip at theoceanac.com.
Must be 21 or older. Party responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Natalia, solid dismount, but that little pause is a deduction.
Top tumblers hope to stick the landing with Coach Jasmine.
That aerial sequence still needs work.
She needs more certified athletic trainers to find her balance.
Focus. I'm going to need you for the all-around. Wait, who's spotting the vault?
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed, you do. We instantly connect you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello, I'm Atlantic City Police Department Chief James Sarkos. Over the past 2 years, our thoughts and conversations have continuously focused on the latest news regarding the pandemic. I'd like to ask you to do your part to end an increasing symptom of the pandemic, distracted driving. A distraction occurs every time you take your eyes off the road, your hands off the wheel, and your mind off of driving safely. Distracted driving crashes increased during the pandemic, even with fewer motorists on our roadways. While it is tempting to talk, text, or scroll through your social media to keep up with the latest news, it should never be done while operating a motor vehicle. April is Distracted Driving Awareness Month. Police departments in Atlantic County are participating in the You Drive, You Text, You Pay campaign, cracking down on distracted drivers with zero tolerance. A distraction occurs every time you take your eyes off the road, your hands off the wheel, and your mind off of driving safely. Let's all work together to ensure in healthy behaviors and put every symptom of the pandemic behind us.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting enrolls for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stopped, opt out. Go to nomoredraftywindows.com for full offer details.
Attention all homeowners. Do you know when to replace your windows? Feeling too hot or cold? It's time to replace. Fog between the glass. Time to replace. Spending too much on expensive energy that literally goes out the window? It's definitely time to replace. If you've put off replacing windows in your home because it's too expensive, here's great news. You can now get a free in-home window consultation and free price quote from Renewal by Andersen, the company with the most 5-star reviews among leading full-service window replacement companies. And right now, you can save $359 off every window and $887 off every door. Just text PLACE to 200-300 for your free consultation on top-quality affordable windows or patio doors for $0 down, 0 payments, and 0 interest for a year. That's right. You don't pay a dime for an entire year. Plus, save $359 off every window and $887 off every door. But hurry, these big dollar savings end this month. Text PLACE to 200-300 right now. Text the word PLACE to 200-300. Don't wait. Text PLACE to 200-300.
Mom, Dad, Sis?
Here we go again.
Why are you in a suit? Picture, if you will, a world with the best network imaginable. I'm talking about the Xfinity 10G network. Go on. Mom, remember how your reality shows wouldn't load with all of us online? Now you can binge. And Susie, we'll have fast internet in the basement.
Nice.
If you have any questions, here's my card.
This is just your name on a gum wrapper.
Introducing the 10G network only from Xfinity. The future starts now. Now through April 23rd, new customers can get 200 megabit Xfinity internet during our limited time Xfinity 10G network launch celebration for just $25 a month for 2 years. Plus, there's no annual contract required and you get Wi-Fi equipment included. Go to Xfinity.com/10G, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today. Requires paperless billing and autopay with stored bank account. Restrictions apply. Taxes and fees extra. After promo, regular rates apply to internet service and devices. Actual speeds vary.
We're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Don't forget, coming up in about 30 minutes from now, your final opportunity today to qualify for the Eagles Pick Your Trip contest. Yes, every hour of the Sports Bash. Also on the Power Hour known as Game Night with me, Josh Hennig. And, of course, every morning during Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max here on 97.3 ESPN. We are giving you multiple shots every day to qualify for the Eagles Pick Your Trip contest, where you're up to pick your trip, thanks to Phillies Sports Trips, when you are a qualifier and you will have to be at the Eagles draft party at Maynard's in Margate, April 27th. That's the Thursday of the NFL draft. So again, coming up in about 30 minutes from now, your final opportunity today to qualify here on 97.3 ESPN. As promised, I'll get to more of your messages coming up right now. 609-403-0973. That's the text board. You also can DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. Over on the DMs, it says BD from Cincinnati. I have no idea if this person is actually from Cincinnati or not, but they're just DMing, they're saying. But it says, if you care more about the Phillies' 5th game of the season than the Sixers, then you simply don't like the Sixers. Probably. I mean, look, there are some people that I will throw a caveat out there. And I know it's a very unpopular caveat, but you know, in my life, I have run into sport fans who just don't like basketball and the NBA as much as the other sports. So they look at the Sixers, they look at the NBA, and they just don't care very much. I've known people to treat baseball the same way. There are tons of people who have told me over the years, baseball is boring. I don't like baseball. Baseball is stupid. I don't understand why it's such a long game. I'm bored with it. I've heard people say about basketball, I don't get basketball. I don't think there's a lot of strategy involved in the game. So, I mean, there are people who, yes, maybe they don't like the Sixers. Maybe they like the Phillies. But I do agree that the fifth game of the Phillies season is not as important as one of the final games of the Sixers season. There are two different points in time in terms of importance and relevance. I do understand what you're saying in general. Over on the text board, a texter didn't leave their name, but they said anonymously, I'm totally calm right now, but the Phillies go 0-10. I might reach for the panic button. If you go 0-10, something is really wrong. And you're right. Maybe you're not hitting the panic button, but you're certainly thinking about reaching for it. Because here's the problem with the rest of your schedule. In order for you to go 0-10, okay, because right now you're 0-4. That means you have to lose tonight and tomorrow to the Yankees, which is not out of the question, but feels like you're probably going to win one of the games against the Yankees. I just feel it in my bones. I don't know why, but I feel it. Then at that point, you're 0-7. That means when you come home, you'll lose the opening homestand. And it's been a very long time since the Phillies lost an entire opening homestand. So, Cincinnati, they're just not a very good baseball team. I know their record makes it look like they are right now, but you got Wheeler, Falter, Walker going Thursday, Saturday, Sunday against three pitchers that most of you have never, ever heard of for the Reds. Nick Lodolo, because you all know who he is. He's a left-handed pitcher, by the way. Graham Ashcraft, not John Ashcroft, Graham Ashcraft. Somewhere I hear Andy McNamara saying, not Ray Craycraft. And finally, Connor Overton. Because you all know who Connor Overton is. So, the likelihood of the Phillies starting 0-10 is extremely, extremely low. Dan from EHT chimes in and says, we need to reassess that Nick Castellanos stinks. Look, Dan, I understand that you are an overreaction guy. And I understand that Castellanos is a guy that has been a very easy whipping boy for a lot of Philadelphia fans. But here's the problem. He doesn't stink. You can never be an all-star in Major League Baseball and that go in the same bio description as he stinks. Nick Castellanos has, let me count them, 1, 2, 3. He has 4 different seasons with at least 20 or more home runs. Can't stink if that is true. He has 2 different seasons of 100 RBIs. Doesn't stink either. He has a third season with 89 RBI. Again, can't stink. Again, I understand that last year was an extreme disappointment. You brought in a guy that you thought, okay, maybe he's not going to hit 34 home runs, 100 RBIs, but can he at least be the guy that gave the Tigers 23-89, can he at least give me 20-some home runs? According to Baseball Reference, for his career, he averages 24 home runs a season and 87 RBI. The problem is that he didn't give you his career average last year. So I understand that the perception of him is he stinks. He doesn't stink. I think there were two problems with Castellanos last year. I think number one, I think that for whatever reason, if you go through his career, he's an inconsistent player. And I think those inconsistencies got very, very intense and aggravated for whatever reason. Maybe he's not built to play in Philadelphia. Okay. Maybe he's a guy who has to play for a team like the Cincinnati Reds to be successful. I don't know. Okay. But here's what I do know. You can't have 3 straight seasons with 23 or more home runs and good RBI numbers and stink. So at some point, he's either going to get better or you're going to have to trade him. You know, it doesn't mean he stinks. It just means he's not as good as you thought he'd be. But Dan, I also understand, Danny HT, that you are an overreaction guy. And we appreciate you listening to the Sports Bash and Game Night here on 97.3 ESPN. And 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle. Texter chimes in and says, didn't the Sixers only lose by the Bucks by 10 points the other game? How was it a blowout? It was a blowout in the fact that the Bucks dominated the game. So, maybe when the person said earlier about the blowout, it wasn't a literal blowout. Let me double check here. Yeah, they lost by 13. So, yes, in a literal sense, literal guy talking about literal stuff. In the literal sense, it was not a blowout. Yes, I do understand what you're saying, Texter. But I think that perception was when you were watching the game, there was a feeling that the Sixers were never going to win that game. Because Milwaukee went out there and did a couple things that basically dictated the entire game. The one thing that they did was they took the entire game to Philadelphia. They pushed the pace and pushed the energy of the game, and the Sixers were never able to really find a groove for themselves. The Sixers, yes, they won the second half in terms of scoring. That's why it was a closer game. But in the first half, they were thoroughly getting beaten. So the feeling was it was a blowout, but in reality, yes, it was not a literal blowout in terms of the final score. It just felt like Milwaukee dictated the pace of that game from beginning to end. And that's why Sixer fans walked away from that game deflated. And as I said on yesterday on Game Night, because the Phillies lost on Sunday Night Baseball, and because the Sixers lost in Milwaukee on the same night, and because the Flyers have lost a couple games in a row, there is a feeling that the sky is falling. Doesn't mean the sky is falling. It just means there is a feeling that the sky is falling. And by the way, thank you for Andrew Summers Point for chiming in and putting your name on that. I think that there is a feeling, and again, feeling's not always reality. It's just some internal emotional state that we're having inside of ourselves that we sometimes project onto the world around us, feelings, otherwise known as. There is a feeling that things are just not going right after they seem to be going so well or so good or all right. I think that the bigger issue with, and we'll start with the Sixers for a moment, because they are playing tonight on 97.3 ESPN. Coverage begins at 8 p.m. The one and only Tom McGinnis on the call for that game tonight. I think that with the Sixers, because of the history of lack of success, there is a attitude toward them that, hey, the Eagles got to the Super Bowl. the Phillies got to the World Series and the Sixers can't even get out of the second round. That seems to be a common attitude by a lot of fans out there. And my big picture response is, well, that assessment is fair. It's not 100% accurate. Because number one, the Phillies have had one really good season last year in the last decade plus. And until the Phillies have a run of, like they did in 2007 to 2011, until they have that kind of run, I treat them like they can't be treated like an example of anything. Look, whether we like it or not, the Phillies going on the run last year, for as amazing as it was and as incredible as June on was with the roller coaster ride, I don't really know what it means. I have no idea what it means that firing Joe Girardi was the elixir to changing the season. Because until we see what this team looks like at June this year, I don't know what that means for last year. I feel like that firing a manager is like playing roulette. You say it's going to land on black or red. You have really no idea if it's going to land on black or red. You're just hoping it lands on the color that you called when you threw the ball in. That's really all it is. So to me, I don't look at firing Joe Girardi as the biggest reason why they went on a run last year. It may have been a catalyst. It may have been a wake-up call. But at the end of the day, the players themselves deserve a lot of credit. Look, Alec Boehm, for about 2.5 months, was on absolute fire. Nick Castellanos had about a 6-8 week run where he looked like a legitimate all-star. JT Realmuto was a stabilizing force. Kyle Schwarber was a monster for 2 of those 3 months last summer. The team did a great job at pulling themselves out of the ditch they dug themselves into last year. So for me, I can't put them in the same conversation as the Eagles, because the Eagles, from the moment Howie Roseman came back into the picture as the GM of the organization, as Jason Kelsey says, they let him out of the broom closet, right? His team has really only had a couple of rough years. There was the 2020 over there, 4-11-1, and you could argue that maybe there was a variety of reasons why they struggled that year. Otherwise, the only other year they had a losing record was 2016. And in 2016, Lane Johnson missed 10 of those games. And if Lane Johnson plays half of the games that he missed, they probably have a winning record. Whether they make the playoffs or not, I don't know. But Lane Johnson has proven to be one of the most important players in this franchise for Philadelphia. So for the Eagles, they have shown you a level of consistency and winning that you have not gotten from the other teams in Philadelphia in terms of playoff success. Sixers going to the playoffs almost every year for a lot of Philadelphia fans is kind of a ho-hum, here we go again, especially in a sport where half the teams make the postseason. And for the Flyers, they're just a dumpster fire, and they're trying to find their way out of the dumpster fire. They're trying to find their way out of the wilderness and getting back to the land of the living. All right. But, the Eagles, they're the standard in the city right now for the sports teams. They are the team that says, hey, we didn't just win the Super Bowl. We went back there with a different head coach and a different quarterback and a revamped roster. The Eagles are in the same category as some of the best teams in the NFL right now. They are a team that has gotten to the biggest, most important game of the year multiple times. Think about it. It's them, it's the Chiefs, it's the 49ers, and it's Tom Brady and the Patriots. And that's pretty much it. There's nobody else right now that really goes in that category. And the problem is if you are a Sixers fan, you look at your team and you say, I have one of the best players in the league in Joel Embiid. I have a future Hall of Famer in James Harden, a former league MVP. I have one of the best young talents in the NBA, Tyrese Maxey. I have one of the best perimeter defenders in the game, the Anthony Melton. I have your classic, I'm going to get in a fight with you if you pick on my star player, PJ Tucker. You have the pieces for a deep playoff run. And if you don't make a deep playoff run, then someone has to pay. Somebody has to take the blame, because that's what we do in society when it comes to our sports teams. And for Sixer fans, the Jimmy Butler experience does not go away. It doesn't matter what you personally think of Jimmy Butler or Ben Simmons or any of that stuff. The reality is that for Sixer fans, they look at Jimmy Butler as the poster child for what this team could have been, because they say, we could have beaten the Raptors. We lost on a last-second shot to Kawhi Leonard that bounced around 4 times and went in. If Jimmy Butler stays, maybe we go to the NBA Finals instead of the Miami Heat. Whether that's real to think that way or not, that is how fans think. So they will always look at this organization as the organization that let them down, as opposed to the Eagles that have kept them lifted up. And the Flyers are just so in the back burner. I mean, they're not on a burner anymore. They're like in the back of the closet, that part of the closet you forgot where your clothes were. You know, you have a closet, you have all the clothes, you open the drawer of your closet, and you forget that in the one corner of the closet, there's that shirt or jacket. You're like, oh yeah, I forgot you were here. That's how Philly fans feel with the Flyers most of the time. Oh my goodness. We'll get to more of your texts a little bit later. 609-403-0973 and your DMs into the 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank, Seattle City. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night Sixers basketball tonight, 8 p.m. Tom McGinnis on the call right here on 97.3 ESPN FM.
It's Sixers basketball tonight on 97.3 ESPN with the voice of the 76ers, Tom McGinnis, calling all the exciting play-by-play action.
Harden outside right to the corner. Harris, three-point shot, bottom, nailed it, clutch trade.
The Sixers host the Celtics tonight. Coverage begins at 8 p.m. Philadelphia 76ers basketball on your radio home of the Sixers in South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN.
Imagine all the possibilities of a $385 million Mega Millions win. You could build your forever home, buy a new luxury car, plus one for all your friends and family. It's just that many millions. Anything can happen in Jersey.
This world has its limits, but in the all-new, all-electric Nissan Ariya, you've got a world of possibilities. You can leave it all behind in serene interiors, or you can go after it with available e-Force all-wheel drive. Go your way in the all-new, all-electric Nissan Ariya. Nissan Ariya with e-Force not yet available for purchase. Expected availability early 2023. Subject to change. e-Force all-wheel drive is an optional feature. e-Force cannot prevent collisions or provide enhanced traction in all conditions. Always monitor traffic and weather conditions.
I can't wait for what's next. Even with higher stroke risk due to atrial fibrillation, an irregular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Eliquis, the Pixaban tablets, reduces stroke risk. It's the #1 cardiologist prescribed blood thinner. Don't stop taking prescription Eliquis without talking to your doctor, as this may increase your risk of stroke. Eliquis can cause serious and in rare cases fatal bleeding. Don't take Eliquis if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or have antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or take longer for bleeding to stop. A spinal injection while on Eliquis increases risk of blood clots, which may cause paralysis, the inability to move. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding or unusual bruising.
or if you have tingling, numbness, or muscle weakness. It may increase your bleeding risk if you take medicines such as aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners. Tell your doctor about all planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
Breaking news.
Tax refund shock is everywhere, but what is it?
My tax refund shrank.
Mine too. The culprit? Pandemic-related stimulus payments and tax credits expiring. In this reporter's opinion, you need a tax expert.
Hey guys, Jackson Hewitt guarantees your biggest refund.
And tax prep is 50% off? Going there now.
50% off is a limited time offer for new clients filing at participating locations. Max value $200. Visit jacksonhewitt.com/50 for terms.
By now, you know that sound. It's the sound of the Home Depot. But what about those sounds? Those are the sounds of a new kitchen package of state-of-the-art appliances with innovations to make everything from meal prep to cleanup easier, making this the sound of savings on top brand appliances. Bring on spring with savings on select kitchen appliances in-store and online at the Home Depot. How doers get more done.
Jack Daniels has always made whiskey, and if they have it their way, they always will. But there's one thing Jack can't make more of: moments. Those are on us to create. You see, basketball fans, we only get one shot at this thing called life, so let's make sure we're making the most of every moment in March and always. Whether it's showing up for our team or sipping a glass of Jack while cheering at the radio, don't let a single moment go to waste. Make it count. Jack Daniels. Please drink responsibly. Tennessee whiskey, 40% alcohol by volume. Jack Daniels Distillery, Lynchburg, Tennessee. Jack Daniels and Old Number 7, a registered trademark. Copyright 2022. Jack Daniels, all rights reserved.
A good work partner knows what you need before you need it. That's how it feels when you work with Cintas. Your dedicated Cintas service reps get to know your business and have the industry knowledge that can help you prepare for what's ahead. They'll deliver your team's workwear freshly laundered. Make sure your first aid and safety supplies, mats, mops, and towels are stocked when you need them. And your fire extinguishers are inspected and in working order. Visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
Ray Magliozzi here for eBay Motors. So you ordered a new air filter for your car. You try to install it, but it doesn't fit. So you take a little bit off the sides. What, still doesn't fit? Well, you could try to sit on it. Or get it right the first time with eBay Guaranteed Fit. When you see the check, you know that part's going to fit. Air filters, brakes, headlights, over 122 million parts. Get the right parts at the right prices. eBay Motors, let's ride. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Right now, get 50% off everything at Banana Republic Factory for a limited time during the spring celebration event. From elevated event dresses to versatile linen styles, save today at your nearest Banana Republic Factory store.
Oh yeah, it's on at Matt Blatt Nissan.
It's buyback March at Matt Blatt Nissan. So bring any trade because AJ the Trade Man wants to buy your vehicle today. AJ pays $500 more than CarMax. So you get more dough for your ride and then drive home in any new Nissan, Altima, Rogue, or Pathfinder with 0 down, 0 payments for 90 days, and 0 interest. Or take $5,000 off MSRP on every new Nissan Titan. And only Matt Blatt Nissan has a 4-day love it or leave it return policy.
Oh yeah, it's on at Matt Blatt Nissan.
Have a job clearing $350 per week? We want to approve you today. And AJ, it's your trade, but only at MattBlattNissan.com. Rate qualifications exist with approved credit. $27.78 per thousand financed on in-stock 2023 Rogues, Pathfinder, Altima. Not all will qualify. Go to MattBlattNissan.com for complete details or call 844-917-4758. Price includes all costs to be paid by consumer, except for licensing, registration, and taxes. Doc 589. Sale price $31,774. Expires 3/31/23. It's on at Matt Blatt Nissan on the Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
I am Josh Hennig here to remind you that don't forget, coming up in about 5 minutes from now, your final opportunity to qualify for the Eagles Pick Your Trip contest. Just listen for the sounder for your opportunity to qualify for the Eagles Pick Your Trip contest. Of course, as a qualifier, you must be present at Maynard's in Margate for the Eagles draft party with Mike Gill and the Sports Bash, April 27th. But again, wait for the sounder for your opportunity to qualify here on 97.3 ESPN. A very thoughtful text from George in Summers Point I want to get to here. He worded out very well, very nicely, so I don't want to shortchange him. George, Summers Point, we appreciate you listening and chiming in to the show. He says, hey, Josh, You make some good points about how the Eagles are the top sports team in Philadelphia now, but don't you think that all of these things are cyclical? Back in the mid-'70s, the Flyers were on top. In the 80s, the Sixers were on top. The Phillies had a nice run in the mid to late 2000s, and now the Eagles are having a great run. As time goes on, most of these things will change. The real trick is getting all the sports team on the top at the same time. That's George Summers' point. First of all, George, I appreciate the very well thought out text. It's very well thought out, very well written. You are right. Things are cyclical in not just sports, but in life, okay? Doesn't matter if it's sports, doesn't matter if it's music, doesn't matter if it's movies, pop culture, politics. It's all cyclical on some level. You're right. In the 70s, the Flyers were the toast of the town. When they were winning cups in the mid-'70s, everyone that I know back then has always told me that the Flyers were the hottest ticket in town. That was also an era where the Phillies and the Sixers, they didn't really start getting good until the late 70s into the early 80s. And even though the Flyers stayed relevant from the mid-'70s to, I would say, roughly the early to mid 2000s. Basically, to me, the line of demarcation for the Flyers is they stopped being relevant around the first lockout in the mid 2000s. But you're right. It was the 80s was many ways the Sixers' time. Phillies were like 78 to 83 was the Phillies, right? And then the Sixers were like 78 to maybe 88, basically, was their window. And then you had the 93 Phillies kind of like a flash in the pan, and then they were done. The 90s were rough because you talk about all the teams being good at the same time. Everyone loves to point back to like 1980 for when all the teams were really good. How about being really bad all at the same time? How about the fact that the Eagles went downhill, Rich Kotite? The Sixers organization completely fell apart. The Flyers were like in this weird transition before and after they drafted they didn't draft, but they acquired Eric Lindros. And then the Phillies, after 93, they went basically into the wilderness. So you're right. Some of this stuff is cyclical. I think it's just interesting that I think Philadelphia sports fans don't realize that the Eagles have now become expected. They are the standard of expectation since Andy Reid was here to now. That's four different head coaches who have gotten this team to double-digit wins year after year. So there is something to be said about that for the Eagles' long run in terms of stability, but I understand what George Summers' point is saying about it's cyclical. And I hope you're right, George, it is cyclical, because I think there are a lot of sports fans in Philadelphia who are fans of the team who look at the Phillies, look at the Sixers, and they really, 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 really want them to be good. I think the average Phillies sports fan would rather have the Sixers get to the NBA Finals this year than the Flyers win the Cup next year. I think that's how desperate the average Philadelphia sports fan has gotten at this point. I think that's kind of what we're talking about. All right, Josh Hennick here on Game Night, 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. By the way, don't forget to go to 97.3 ESPN.com. The latest on Tom McShay's mock draft. I didn't get a chance to get to it here, but I think the guy that he picked for the Eagles is very fascinating because he might be a perfect fit for the Eagles defense next year at number 10. You can see that over at 97.3 ESPN.com and 97.3 ESPN mobile app. That sound means that's your final opportunity for you to qualify for the Eagles Pick Your Trip contest. E-caller 7 at 609-573-3776. 609-573-3776. Call now for your opportunity to pick your trip. Thanks to Philly Sports Trips. Don't forget, you are a qualifier. You must be present at Maynard's in Margate. Sports Bash, Mike Gilly broadcasting live on location from 2 to 6 p.m. All Eagles qualifiers in attendance will have a chance to pick their trip, but you must be present to win, and you must qualify. Here's your final chance to qualify right now, 609-573-3776. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night. Sixers tonight at 8 p.m. on 97.3 ESPN. Have a great night.